The Old West was a time of lawlessness, with legendary figures who carved their names into history through the barrel of a gun. This era, often romanticized in books and movies, has seen many infamous gunfights that have become legends. From the dusty streets of Tombstone to the saloons of Deadwood, these iconic gunfights epitomize the tension, honor, and danger that have shaped the Wild West. In this video, we delve into the history to uncover some of the most famous gunfights that have left an indelible mark on the lore of the Old West. Remember to hit the like button because it helps us a lot. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell to not miss the upcoming interesting videos. Gunfight at the OK Corral. The gunfight at the OK Corral is one of the most famous gunfights in the American West. This 30-second gunfight, which took place in Tombstone, Arizona, involved lawmen and members of the notorious Clanton Gang, commonly known as the Cowboys. The confrontation escalated on October 26, 1881, when Virgil Earp arrested Ike Clanton and Tom McLaury for carrying guns within the city limits. After they were released, they joined Billy Clanton and Frank McLaury, who had just arrived in town, gathered near the OK Corral on Fremont Street. Sensing the growing tension, Marshal Virgil Earp enlisted the support of his younger brothers Wyatt and Morgan, as well as Doc Holliday, to undertake the perilous mission of disarming Billy Clanton and Frank McLaury. When four men approached the Cowboys demanding their guns, things spiraled out of control. In the gunfight shortly thereafter at the OK Corral, Frank McLaury and Billy Clanton made a fatal error when attempting to cock their pistols near the Earp brothers and Doc Holliday. Although the exact identity of the person who fired the first shot is unknown, Doc Holliday's bullet was the first to hit the target. It pierced Frank McLaury's stomach, causing McLaury's own bullet to go through the tail of Wyatt's coat. Within half a minute, a fierce gunfight claimed the lives of Billy Clanton, Frank McLaury, and Tom McLaury. Virgil Earp injured his leg and Morgan injured his shoulder. Later, Sheriff John Behan arrested Virgil, Wyatt, and Morgan Earp along with Doc Holliday for the murder of Billy Clanton and the McLaury brothers. However, Judge Wells Spicer, who had ties to the Earps, ultimately deemed the defendants to have acted according to the law. Hickok-Tutt Shootout. In July of 1865, a famous gunfight took place between Bill Hickok and David Tutt in Springfield, Missouri. The gunfight arose when Hickok, after losing a gambling game to 26-year-old Tutt, was unable to pay his debt. In lieu of payment, Tutt took Hickok's gold pocket watch as collateral. Hickok warns Tutt that if he uses the meter excessively, it will lead to deadly consequences. On July 21, 1865, tensions peaked when the two met in public square. Tutt proudly showed off the watch, angering Hickok. Positioned about 75 yards apart, the men prepared to confront each other. Tutt took his pistol but missed, while Hickok's bullet lodged in Tutt's chest. The unfortunate incident led to Hickok being charged with manslaughter. Hickok's trial began on August 3rd, where he argued that he acted in self-defense. 3 days later, Hickok was acquitted of all charges. After his death, David Tutt was originally buried at Springfield City Cemetery. However, his remains were later moved to Maple Park Cemetery, where he rests to this day. The burial site is marked by a headstone engraved with a pocket watch, a deck of cards, and a pistol. 4 dead in 5 seconds gunfight. On April 14, 1881, a pivotal event known as the El Paso Gunfight, also known as the 4 dead in 5 seconds gunfight, or the Battle of Keating's Saloon, took place. The origin of this case seems to stem from the Manning brothers stealing about 26 cattle from Mexico, which they then shipped to Texas with the intention of selling. Texas Ranger Ed Fitch, along with 2 Mexican farmers named Sanchez and Huarique, began an investigation that led to the tragic deaths of 2 individuals from Mexico. This unfortunate outcome prompted a group of more than 60 Mexican men to cross the border into Texas, seeking justice and a thorough investigation. At the request of the Mexican team, Gus Krimpkow, an El Paso policeman, agreed to accompany them to the ranch of Johnny Hale, a famous local cattle rancher. At the farm, they discovered the bodies of 2 Mexican farmers. Responding quickly, the El Paso court quickly organized an inquiry into the deaths of these individuals, with Krimko filling in the interpreter role. Then Constable Krimko headed to Keating's Saloon, a notorious establishment known for its bad reputation in El Paso, Texas. In the saloon, a confrontation broke out between Krimko and George Campbell, a former city marshal and close associate of John Hale. Present at the saloon is Hale himself, drunk and unarmed, harboring a grudge against Krimko due to his participation in the ongoing investigation. In an unexpected turn, Hale passionately grabbed one of Campbell's pistols, exclaiming, "George, I protected you." With a single shot, Hale attacked Krimko, injuring the officer and falling to the floor. Realizing the severity, Hale quickly ran outside the saloon. As soon as Marshal Dallas Studenmeyer made his presence known, brandishing his raised firearm. Studenmeyer fired a single shot, but the bullet's trajectory changed direction, hitting an innocent cowboy bystander. Standing in a favorable position, Studenmeyer continued to fire, aiming for Hale and unleashing a fatal shot that instantly took his life, stabbing him in the eye. Meanwhile, as Hale collapsed, Campbell, wielding his weapon, stepped out of the saloon, urgently declaring, "Gentlemen, this is not my fight." However, despite being wounded, Krimko refused to accept Campbell's pleas and shot Campbell, wounding him in the hand. Immediately, Studenmeyer turned his attention to Campbell, firing 3 bullets into his stomach. As Campbell fell onto the dusty road, he yelled, "You scoundrel, you killed me." When the chaos subsided, both George Campbell and Constable Krimko died. In a rather short and somewhat humorous gunfight, 4 people were killed in less than 5 seconds. Regrettably, the culprits responsible for the deaths of 2 Mexican farmers were never caught. Gunfight at Blazer's Mill. On April 4, 1878, an extraordinary gunfight took place in the Old West, forever etching the Battle of Blazer's Mill into frontier lore. In this gunfight, a lone individual confronts 8 skilled gunmen. The Regulators, which included Billy the Kid, Charlie Bowder, and many other outlaws led by Richard Dick Brewer, pursued relentlessly, searching for individuals believed to be involved in the murder of John Tunstall, the event that sparked the Lincoln County War. While Buckshot Roberts, a buffalo hunter, has been implicated in crimes involving the Murphy-Dolan faction, it is believed he does not want to be involved in the ongoing conflicts. Blazer's Mill, an important facility that included a sawmill, a trading post, and even a post office, was located on Rio Tularosa. At the time of the incident, the Regulators, including Dick Brewer, Frank and George Coe, John Middleton, Doc Scurlock, Charles Bowder, Henry Brown, Frank McNabb, and Billy the Kid, were gathering nearby. Meanwhile, Roberts tries his mule to the front of the mill and ventures inside to inquire about transferring his farm payment. Upon seeing the armed men, Roberts quickly grabbed his rifle and fired a shot, hitting Charlie Bowder's belt and knocking him backwards. Bowder immediately retaliated, shooting Roberts in the stomach. Despite his injuries, Roberts bravely persevered, shooting at his enemies as he sought refuge at the factory's entrance. His shots found their mark, piercing John Middleton's chest, grazing Doc Scurlock's head, maiming George Coe's right hand, and grazing Billy the Kid's arm. Taking shelter in the factory, Roberts quickly equipped himself with another rifle, preparing to continue his defense. The Regulators temporarily halted their advance, tending to their wounded comrades and attempting to talk to Roberts. However, leader Dick Brewer, harboring frustration with his men, cautiously moved to the back of the building and opened fire. Immediately, Roberts returned fire, hitting Brewer in the eye and taking his life. Overwhelmed by the lone gunman's determined resistance, the Regulators mounted their horses and retreated. After that, Roberts, from excessive blood loss, died the next day. He and Dick Brewer are buried side by side at Blazer Cemetery in Mescalero, New Mexico. Northfield Bank Raid, 1876. On September 7, 1876, 8 outlaws rode into Northfield, Minnesota, and robbed the town's First National Bank. This daring criminal gang is none other than the infamous James Younger Gang, which includes Cole Younger, Frank James, Jesse James, Jim Younger and Bob Younger, Clell Miller, Bill Chadwell, and Charlie Pitts. After scouting the area, the party got into action, with Jesse James, Frank James, and Bob Younger venturing inside the bank, while Cole Younger, Jim Younger, Bill Chadwell, Clell Miller, and Charlie Pitts took up outside guard position. In the bank, 3 of the outlaws blatantly asked to open the vault. However, Joseph Lee Haywood, a brave banker, refused to comply and paid a heavy price when he was shot dead. The sound of gunfire sounded like an alarm, making the citizens of Northfield realize that a robbery was underway. Quickly preparing their weapons, the townspeople bravely confronted the criminals, embroiling them in a fierce gunfight. In the ensuing chaos, Miller and Chadwell were shot dead. The remaining members of the gang were injured in the fierce gunfight. Frank James and Pitts suffered leg injuries, while Jesse James was the last to be shot, hitting a bullet in the thigh as the group escaped. 6 outlaws rode out of town on Dundas Road. Their destination was Millersburg, where 4 of them had spent the night before the daring robbery. Coffeeville Bank Robbery. The dramatic Dalton Gang gunfight unfolded in Coffeeville, Kansas during the morning of October 5, 1892. Driven by their audacity, the outlaws meticulously planned a daring heist, targeting not 1 but 2 banks simultaneously, envisioning it as one of the most ambitious robberies in history. As the clock struck 9 a.m. on that fateful day, brothers Bob, Grat, and Emmett Dalton, accompanied by Bill Power and Dick Broadwell, descended upon Coffeeville when the streets were filled with bustling crowds. In an alley facing the river, the gang members dismounted and walked down a narrow passage, 3 in front and 2 in back. Concealed behind fake beards, the outlaws split into 2 groups. Grat, Power, and Broadwell entered C.M. Condon & Co. Bank, while Bob and Emmett walked across the square to enter First National Bank. Unbeknownst to them, a Coffeeville resident happened to notice their presence, who quickly sent out an alert. Immediately, gunfire broke out, shattering the windows of the banks as the citizens resolutely fought back. Within minutes, what started as a robbery turned into a fierce gunfight. By the time 15 minutes had passed since the outlaws entered the bank, 8 men were shot dead and 3 others wounded. Among those who fell were Bob and Grat Dalton, Bill Power and Dick Broadwell of the Dalton Gang. Tragically, Marshal Charles Connolly and local citizens Lucius Baldwin, George Cubine, and Charles Brown also perished. The sole surviving outlaw, Emmett Dalton, would spend the next 15 years behind bars, marking the end of the Dalton Gang's infamous reign of terror. In the history of the Old West, there are many other famous gunfights, such as Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, 1881, Long Branch Saloon Gunfight, 1879, Butch and Sundance Shootout, 1908, Wham Paymaster Robbery, 1889, Shooting of Jesse James, 1882, Gunfight at Hyde Park, 1871, Frisco Shootout, 1883, and Shootout at Wilson Ranch, 1899. In the near future, maybe we'll have a video of these infamous gunfights. Please like and share if you find the video content interesting and useful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment below so as not to miss the upcoming interesting videos. Thanks for watching.